A driver pulled into a back lot at 3 a.m. and drifted off in the sleeper. Suddenly, loud pounding shook the driver's side door, then the passenger side, so hard the whole truck rattled. He shot awake, grabbed a bat, and flicked on the lights, but no one was there. The pounding stopped, only to resume moments later, again with no source. In a panic, he started the engine and sped off, noticing 2 other trucks ahead doing the same. I used to think those stories were all just campfire nonsense. Fiction passed around between bored truckers to keep the night lively. I laughed them off like everyone else. But that changed a few months ago, on a cold November night when I accepted a late run across state lines. It was supposed to be an easy job, simple route, decent pay, overnight haul through mostly rural roads. Nothing I hadn't done 100 times before. Dispatch gave me the paperwork and casually mentioned I'd be taking Route 113 through a stretch known as the Hollow. When I asked why it was called that, he just chuckled and said, "You'll see. Just don't stop after midnight." He said it like a joke, but there was something off in his eyes, like he was only half joking. I brushed it off. Ghost stories weren't my thing. The trip started out just fine. I was in good spirits, had a full tank, and the roads were clear. I set my GPS, queued up a playlist of old school blues, and hit the road. The sun had long dipped behind the hills, leaving only the glow of my headlights slicing through the dark. Fields stretched out on both sides, broken occasionally by clusters of trees and the occasional lonely farmhouse. It was the kind of quiet you forget still exists. Around 11:30 p.m., I turned onto Route 113. That's when things subtly shifted. The road narrowed and lost its center lines. The tree line pressed closer, and a strange stillness fell over everything. Even my radio began to fuzz slightly, but I chalked it up to interference. Then the fog rolled in. Thick, low-hanging fog that hugged the pavement and made my high beams almost useless. It wasn't like any fog I'd driven through before. It felt too heavy, almost like it was moving with intent. At 11:47, I spotted it. An old gas station tucked to the right, surrounded by pine trees and overgrown shrubs. Its sign flickered weakly. Gas and diner, open all night. Only one pump looked operational. I slowed down to take a closer look. That's when I noticed someone standing by the pump. A girl, pale, still. Her head tilted just slightly, as if she was listening. I rolled past, expecting her to move, wave, something. But she didn't. She didn't even seem to blink. What made it worse? There was an old wooden sign nailed to a post outside the station. The words barely legible through the peeling paint. "Fuel up. Don't stop again." That was my first chill of the night. I sped up. By 12:05 a.m., the fog had thickened so much I had to slow to 40 just to see. Then I noticed something in my mirrors. A faint shape. At first I thought it was another vehicle approaching behind me. But the lights weren't there. It was just a vague, dark outline moving at the edge of the road behind me. I blinked. Gone. I turned up the heat. My breath was visible inside the cab. That's when I heard it. A soft tapping sound. I leaned over. The passenger side window, it was fogged up from the inside. And right in the center were 4 tiny fingerprints, as if a small hand had pressed against the glass. I slammed the brakes, heart racing, checked my doors, still locked. I got out with my flashlight and walked the perimeter. Nothing. No tracks. No animals. No people. As I climbed back in, the CB radio crackled to life. Channel 19. Standard for truckers, but nobody uses it anymore. I hadn't touched the dial. Just static at first. Then a faint voice whispered, "Don't look back." I froze. My hand hovered over the dial. "Who is this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. No response, just breathing. Then silence. The road suddenly felt like it was closing in on me. My headlights barely lit more than 10 feet ahead. Trees leaned inward. My mirrors started to vibrate with the sound of a low hum, almost like distant chanting. I looked ahead, and there she was. The girl from the gas station, standing in the middle of the road. I swerved, heart pounding, slammed on the brakes, and turned to look behind me. She was gone. No trace. I sat in the cab, panting. Then a loud thud on the roof. I looked up, hand instinctively reaching for the bat behind my seat. Another thud, closer to the windshield, then scratching. Slow, deliberate scratching, like fingernails dragging across metal. I stepped out again, scanned the roof. Nothing. But on the ground, directly beneath the passenger door, was a small, worn-out doll. Fabric tattered, one eye missing. It sat perfectly upright, its tiny cloth arms outstretched. I didn't pick it up. I drove. But as I pulled away, I swear I heard it laugh. A high-pitched giggle that faded into the fog behind me. By now, I was desperate to reach the next truck stop. But the GPS wasn't responding. It was stuck on a frozen screen, and my phone had zero signal. My only option was to keep driving, eyes darting to every shadow on the side of the road. Every bush, every tree stump felt like it could move. Then the CB buzzed again, louder this time. A child's voice came through, giggling, followed by that same whisper, "It's your turn now." I pulled into a small rest area an hour later. My hands were trembling as I stepped out, soaked in sweat. There were 2 other rigs there, engines idling. I headed inside to get some air, maybe a cup of bad coffee. The cashier barely glanced at me. Looked like he'd seen 100 drivers just like me. I asked him if he knew anything about Route 113. He stopped wiping the counter and looked me dead in the eyes. "You saw her?" "Who?" I asked. He motioned me to follow him out back. In the dim light, he pointed to a tattered newspaper clipping pinned to the bulletin board. It was yellowed with age. The headline read, "Family disappears without a trace." Near Dead Man's Creek, 1968. A couple, 2 children. The youngest was a girl named Lily, last seen near the old gas station I'd passed. "They say her spirit walks that road," the cashier said. "She thinks she's still waiting for her parents to pick her up. But if she sees you, she follows." I felt my stomach turn. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept the truck locked, engine running. Every few minutes, I glanced at the rear view, half expecting to see that doll, or worse, her, sitting in the passenger seat. When I got home 2 days later, I tried to forget. Threw the jacket I'd been wearing into a closet. Didn't talk about it to anyone. But the story wasn't over. 3 nights later, I woke up at 2 a.m. to a sound. Not in a truck this time, in my house. A faint tapping on the bedroom window. I pulled back the curtain. Nothing there, except on the windowsill was the doll. Same one, same missing eye. Only now, the other eye was staring directly at me. I threw it out immediately, into a dumpster 6 blocks away. The next morning, it was in my mailbox. I've tried everything. Burning it, burying it, dumping it across state lines. It always comes back. The worst part? Some nights I hear her voice on the baby monitor in my kid's room. We don't have a baby. And last night, as I pulled out of the driveway for another run, the radio clicked on by itself. That same whisper. Don't look back. One night, on an empty highway, a driver spotted a woman in a hospital gown calmly walking along the shoulder under the full moon. Her vacant smile and slow shuffle gave him chills. They were miles from any town. He stopped, grabbed a flashlight, and walked toward her, calling out, but she didn't respond. When she reached for him, he kicked her, and she released him easily, like kicking concrete, grinned, and continued walking into the night, That story wasn't mine. I heard it from a guy at a roadside diner I used to stop at during my late-night deliveries. Everyone laughed it off, said he was either drunk or messing with new drivers. But something about the way he told it stuck with me. The details, that grin, the gown. I remember thinking, who makes up a smile like that? A year later, I stopped at that same diner. Only this time, the guy who told the story wasn't there. When I asked about him, the waitress just gave me this blank stare and said, "No one by that name works here, never has." I brushed it off, figured maybe I got the names mixed up or I was just tired. That was until my next haul took me through an unfamiliar route, Route 190, a back road cutting through a dense forest with no service, no lights, and barely any signs of life. It was supposed to be a shortcut to save me 2 hours. I wish I'd taken the long way. About 30 minutes in, my radio started acting up, faint static, like someone whispering just under the surface. Then I saw it, something small lying in the middle of the road. I slowed down, expecting it to be roadkill. It wasn't. It was a teddy bear, soaked from the recent rain, its left eye missing, and arms torn at the seams like it had been dragged. I didn't stop. I just veered around it and kept going. But something about it clung to me, like it had been placed there, like bait. A few miles later, my headlights caught something on the side of the road. She was standing completely still, facing away from me. Long black hair matted to her back, arms hanging by her sides, and that same white hospital gown. My heart skipped. I slowed, unsure if I should stop. She didn't move, didn't even flinch when my truck rolled past her, barely 20 feet away. But when I checked my rearview mirror, she was gone. Not walked away, not turned around, just gone. I didn't want to believe it, but my hands were shaking. That was no prank. No human disappears like that. I told myself to keep driving, that I was imagining things. Maybe my mind was playing tricks. Too many horror stories and too little sleep. Then my GPS, which had been dead for the past hour, suddenly chirped to life and said, "Turn left now." There was no road, just trees, thick black trees that looked like they'd been burned from the inside out. And yet, the GPS kept repeating it. "Turn left now." Over and over, louder, distorted, like a broken record. I yanked the plug out, but the voice didn't stop. It echoed inside the cab. That's when I noticed the temperature dropping. My breath fogged the glass, and a sharp frost spread across my windshield like spiderwebs. I turned the heat up full blast, but it didn't help. I could feel it. Something was watching me. The road narrowed. Trees leaned in like they were listening. And then I saw her again, standing directly in the middle of the road. This time she was facing me. That same gown, that same dead smile. I slammed the brakes, but the truck didn't stop. It slowed, but not enough. My heart pounded. I couldn't swerve. The road was too narrow. I closed my eyes and braced for impact. Nothing. When I opened them, the road was empty. No sign of her. Not even a footprint on the wet pavement. I wanted to turn around, but something told me I couldn't. It wasn't just fear. It was like the road itself wouldn't let me. Every time I tried to U-turn, the wheel locked. The engine sputtered. One time, the whole dash flickered like the battery was dying. I kept moving forward like I was being pushed. Then I saw the house. It wasn't on any map. It wasn't marked. But there it was. Old, rotting. 2 stories with broken shutters and vines crawling up the brick like veins. Lights flickered inside, and my truck just stopped, like it had shut itself off. I don't remember getting out. 1 minute I was gripping the steering wheel, and the next, I was on the porch, hand on the door. It opened on its own. The smell hit me first. Mold, blood, and something like burning hair. The hallway stretched longer than it should have. Doors lining both sides. all cracked open just enough to see darkness inside. And then the whispers started again. Not from the radio, from inside the house. I should have run, I know that. But I walked in. I passed a mirror in the hallway and caught a glimpse of something behind me. Her, standing right behind my shoulder, smiling. But when I spun around, no one was there. Just the sound of creaking floorboards upstairs. I followed them. The second floor was worse. The walls were covered in old photographs. Some missing faces, others scratched out entirely. One photo stopped me cold. It was me, not a look-alike, me. Standing next to the woman in the gown. She wasn't smiling in the picture, just staring, blank. The photo was dated, October 17, 1997. I was born in 1992. That means I was in that photo when I was 5 years old. But I had no memory of it. None. I started tearing through the other photos. More of me. Some I was older, some younger. All with her. And then the voice came again. You brought her back. It came from a room at the end of the hall. The door creaked open, revealing an old hospital bed and monitors that hadn't worked in years. In the bed was a figure, frail, unmoving. And next to it, her. Only now she was facing me. No smile, just hollow, lifeless eyes. She raised her hand slowly, pointed at me and whispered something I couldn't hear. Suddenly I remembered something from when I was a kid. Lost in a hospital. Wandering the halls. A woman in a white gown had taken my hand and said she'd help me find my mom. But I never told anyone about it because I woke up in my bed the next morning with no memory of how I got home. Until now. I think she found me that day. And I think I never really left, because when I stumbled out of that house, my truck was gone. The road was gone. Everything was gone. Just trees. Black, endless trees. And I could hear the GPS again. Turn left now. I've been walking for what feels like hours. The woods never end. My phone won't turn on. My watch is frozen at 3:33 a.m. And every now and then, I hear footsteps behind me, getting closer. Sometimes I catch a glimpse of white between the trees. I know she's following me. Or maybe she's leading me. But to where? That's the part that terrifies me most. Because when I blink, I swear I'm back in that hospital hallway.